Welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, it's Newsweek where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. Now, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nelson Wike, has convened an emergency security meeting in response to the escalating security challenges in the nation's capital. The meeting, which held on Tuesday, was attended by heads of security agencies, top officials of the FCT administration, council chairmen, and traditional rulers. The minister urged the stakeholders to work together to restore peace and order in the FCT and assured the residents of improved security. He also expressed his condolences to the families of the victims of the kidnappings and banditry in the FCT. The security situation in the FCT has worsened recently, with gunmen invading communities, forcefully entering people's homes and abducting residents from their residence. I have joining me to discuss this Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability. Olufemi, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Jacinta.
Good evening. It's good to see you. Now, let's make sense of what's happening in Abuja. How do you perceive the increasing insecurity in the capital city of Nigeria? Do you think it reflects badly on our country and as well in security?
Well, beyond whatever reflection this portends, it is frightening, especially for those who have lived in Abuja or who have been visiting Abuja. For somebody like me, for over 20 years, I've consistently visited Abuja. And I can tell you that there is no time in the history of Abuja that you have ever felt unsafe. I mean, if you have a meeting in Abuja today, you are more likely to leave your meeting point to your hotel, unlike the usual persons coming from Kano, Lagos, Calabar, to Abuja. After your meeting, you want to experience the Nigerian restaurants, you want to experience the gardens, you want to visit friends, if possible, in Abuja. That has been the tradition. But today, the average person in Abuja is looking for the next opportunity to be indoors after whatever engagement, either business or whatever you are having in Abuja. It's at a frightening level. It is unprecedented. And that is why not only the government is concerned, the average Nigerian who have businesses in Abuja or have reason to be in Abuja should be concerned about the situation in Abuja today. There have been incidences of violence, kidnap and all sort of things in Abuja in the past. But it has never happened at such proximity that it is happening today. In the past, we could hear stories of Abuja, Kaduna Way, some remote parts of Abuja, some parts along Abuja, Lokoja Highway, and of course within the Federal Capital Territory. But today, I can tell you that in places that are just about 10-15 minutes drive to the city center, people are being abducted. In actual fact, one of my very close friends from Osun State has a sister abducted for 6 weeks, somewhere around Maitama, one of the, of course, the most expensive eyebrow area in Nigeria today, just about some weeks ago. So it's frightening. And I think that is why, the whole noise is everywhere about the situation in Abuja.
Let's talk about the means or strategy at which we have at hand to combat this insecurity. Do you think there is a need to, to change the strategy? Some are advocating involving and empowering a civilian joint task force. Is it the high time?
You see, every time we talk about civilian joint task force, like we had in Borno, some part of the south and northeast, the eventual creation of Amotekuni, and is a direct indictment on the Nigerian state about the failure of government, whose primary responsibility is the security and welfare of the citizens, to protect the citizens. In the first place, you have no business harming civilians with AK-47 pump actions to protect themselves if government is able to live up to the expectation of its primary responsibility. The primary duty of government is not to build roads and hospitals. It is the security and welfare of the citizens. So rather than advocating for another civilian JTF or another Abuja version of Amotekun and all this kind of security system, where I think we must begin to call out the government on the need to live up to its primary responsibility, which is the security and welfare. In fact, welfare comes next to security, because you can only demand for a welfare situation from the government when you are secured. For people who are, kidnapped, who are in, captivity, there's nothing about their welfare. We heard stories of a band of musicians on their way to Abuja who were kidnapped some couple of weeks ago. And you heard that stories about how they had to feed on grasses and all sort of, funny things. So is somebody feeding on grass, thinking about his welfare? So first, it's because he became insecure. So security must be prioritized. And I must say this, that I haven't been in Abuja for some weeks and I haven't experienced some of the situations in Abuja. I want to say that we must, at least compared to the past, commend the disposition of the federal government, particularly the president, to addressing this issue. Because I was in Abuja in the previous time when situations like this were emerging. But for God's sake, in the last couple of days, you could see the radical approach to tackling this issue, but more has to be done.
Okay, you don't agree that we need extra...
We don't need it. The state must leave us to the responsibility.
What do you say about the self-preservation techniques some experts are also prescribing, such as awareness, anticipation, as well, mitigation? I don't know if you buy that as well.
Whatever awareness, mitigation, and whatever approach has to do with national orientation, citizens' education, which should not include encouraging citizens to protect themselves by bearing arms. Moving forward, you could tell citizens to be conscious of their environment. Those should be national orientation, responsibilities and the like. But the job of protecting citizens, the job of securing the society, which is the primary responsibility of state, should be in the hand of the government.